Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Wake and Blake. Sorry for adjusting this on the fly. I realized that it was at a pretty bad angle. I'm using the new mic again. I think I have the audio issue figured out, but I suppose that we'll see. I got asked to do a video on Ohio's marijuana plan, I guess you could call it. I don't know if I'd really call it much of a plan.
We talk a lot about marijuana.
Oh, look at that. That's another video. The suggestion was from CFL Buds. They're a loyal follower of us, and so I figured I'd give it a shot, figure out what the hell Ohio thinks they're doing. And I read the article and was immediately into doing this video because in a single word of reaction, it's disgusting. And so I'll just dive into some notes that I took based on the article. What they want to do, and what I mean by they, is a group of what the article called ambitious capitalists in Ohio, which is an immediate red flag for me, that they're ambitious capitalists, which is another word of saying corporate, greedy fucking morons whose only intelligence is on how to corrupt and manipulate the people in which are buying their product. They want to do a 3-tier commercial system with retailers, wholesalers, and manufacturers. And manufacturers, I'm assuming, are the people that are going to grow and process, and the wholesalers will be wholesaling to retailers. So not entirely different from what Washington started out with as far as their 3-tier system, although Washington is moving away from that tier system in a 1-tier, well, it's still only 3 tiers, but there's only going to be 1 tax on it. At least that's what they're trying to pass, and I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad idea yet. And the wholesalers are 10 people that can do that. And it doesn't... Okay. I'm going to try and get the actual quote from it. The amendment is designed to limit wholesale grow facilities to 10 specific sites owned and operated by the financial backers of Responsible Ohio. So, and nobody knows who these financial backers are, as far as I know and as far as the article said. So we have no idea who these people are. Essentially, it creates monopoly because there's only a couple of people, persons, not companies, persons, really benefiting from this. Responsible Ohio says that they're not establishing a monopoly because there are 10 facilities that will have to compete with each other, which, you can kiss my ass with that response. Then the article goes on to use a term called an oligopoly, and his definition or his interpretation of an oligopoly is kind of wrong in the article, so I'm going to go ahead and read the actual definition. It's a state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers. So, in other words, it'll be like internet service providers. So there's like Comcast, and there's Time Warner, and there's CenturyLink, and then there's really not much else out there. And so that's an oligopoly, as an example. But ultimately, there's only a couple people really benefiting from this, and that doesn't create much of a free market. That's really a closed market. And closed markets are really entirely irritating. Because it doesn't allow for much innovation. It doesn't allow for the standard to be gradually raised higher and higher. It's pretty much just we move it whenever we feel like moving it. And that, to me, right there, especially when a law is voted in by the people, it shouldn't be controlled by people who just already have money and have no real interest in the benefit of the industry, except for fattening of their wallet. And really, like... And this is something that has always bothered me, because they're like, oh, well, I want money. Well, the way that you get the most money is by making the law the best it can be. That's how you get the most money. That's how you gain the most capital, is by actually creating an industry that is solid. The foundation has to be solid in the industry for it to grow. And if you create a shitty foundation for an industry, it's going to crumble from underneath itself. But you don't care because you have so much money in other businesses, it doesn't matter to you. So that to me is really just disgusting. They said that you can grow up to 4 plants. There's no specific terminology on how many non-flowering plants you can have, but they're running into something that Washington's also running into, and it says that you can have up to 4 plants, but in Ohio, you can only possess 8 ounces of usable product at a time. So 8 ounces is actually better than Washington's, but if you grow good plants that yield good amounts, that's only 2 plants that you can harvest at a 1/4 pound a plant. For a single person in retail, that's not a huge deal. I mean, that's a lot more than most retail people are going to smoke. But if you're medical and you create concentrates for yourself, especially if you're doing hash or BHO or RSO, especially RSO, which really requires a lot of plant. It really requires a lot to do really good RSO. And for people that don't know what RSO is, it's the Rick Simpson oil. You can go ahead and search out Rick Simpson oil. Search out Rick Simpson. He's done some amazing things, and I don't want to muck up his definition of what his RSO is. So go ahead and just YouTube or Google whatever, to find out his exact process. But this law in its entirety is the epitome of what we want to avoid. And it's businesses who have no business in marijuana taking over an industry they have nothing to lose in. If this fails, they don't lose anything. They still have other businesses and other financial obligations in which will continue to fund and squish their pockets full of money that is just manipulated and corrupted from their other businesses. So he refers to an oligopoly as a cartel, but he's wrong, because cartels are often ruled by one person and there's no other competing firms. And I don't know, again, who these backing financial people are. So if these are people who the financial backers actually have stake in the marijuana industry and they are actually competing marijuana businesses, I suppose that would be different. But the fact that they're not specified and the fact that those people aren't coming out and defending this law or even giving any sort of assurances to the people that this law is going to actually work out for their benefit is kind of shady to me. It kind of just makes me not even angry, it's just frustrated. Like, the people that have been fighting for decriminalization have been fighting for a very long time for it. And then for these businesses, and especially in some instances the state, to come in and act like they're just going to be the white knight and, oh, we're going to totally do this for you. And then secretly they're behind closed doors going, oh, those stupid potheads, they'll never get together and protest. They'll never get together and fight these things because they're just too fucking lazy. And the truth is they're probably fucking right, is the fact that there aren't going to be enough people that will actually protest this enough to actually get this to change. I hope I'm wrong. But the truth of the matter is, too many people are just going, oh, well, that's the way it is. And so will things change? Maybe. I hope so. I hope that Ohio legislators understand how horrible of a thing they're doing to their marijuana laws. I hope that they understand how bad this is for their constituents. I hope that they realize how absolutely asinine these people are. But the reality of the matter is it probably won't change until it gets worse. So in this beginning stages, it's imperative for people to stand up and actually say something to the legislators before things get out of hand. But we are a country of people that wait until the house is on fire to call the fire department. And then we go, oh, I wonder why. Well, there was probably something wrong with your house. But you ignored it and ignored it and ignored it, and then finally your house set fire. So there's smoke in Ohio. No pun intended. The law is smoking, which means smoke is dangerous. Fire bad. So ultimately, I think that this article that I was sent didn't really specify possession laws, like I was reading from Normal's website and how they specified certain amounts are punishable by a ticket and other things are punishable by jail time. There's nothing of the sort here at all regarding that, and I guess that's okay. One of the other things that he said that kind of he is totally spot on about, and the writer of the article is John Getman, and he is the Cannabis Policy Director for High Times Magazine. And the article was originally posted at hightimes.com. I'll post a link to the article on the video. You can also look at Wake and Blake 10, and the article is also posted there by CFL Buds. One of the other things he said in here is, I'll actually quote the article here. This one comment sums up all that is wrong about this greedy self-serving scheme. Quote, "You are allowed," end quote. Think about that. Allowed by whom? By the cartel. That's who. Responsible Ohio wants to take over the marijuana business and use criminal law to enforce the constitutionally mandated monopoly. And I really want to emphasize, and he does too, the quote, "You are allowed." I want that to sink in for a minute. You are allowed. And you're going to go, who is this power that allows me things? Last time I checked, I vote those people in that make those laws. So the people need to remind those people who are saying you are allowed that if they want to stay in power, they better get their shit together. Because the only reason those people are in power is because the people voted them in. And as far as those greedy, self-serving assholes in the business, they need to be reminded that the people that buy their product are the only reason they have a damn thing. And so if they really make an ass out of themselves and the people really want to be responsible about what's happening here, they'll find out who these people are and they'll stop buying their product. The boycott system is one of the most powerful things we have in as far as protest, period. You take a company and then you take their income away from them. Watch how fast they turn. Watch how fast all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, we didn't know that was so bad and you guys hated us so much. Well, you only didn't know until your pocketbook started to look a little funny. And then you realized, oh, maybe I should stop being such a dick to the people that buy my product. Duh. Like, there's no forward thought. There's no progression. There's no, oh my God, there's just causation at its core. Everything that has an action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you do something, there's a ripple effect and it'll come back to you. What are the reactions to your actions? You have to think ahead of these things. When you're doing something like a marijuana law, you have to go, okay, well, how are these taxes going to affect my demographic? How are these taxes going to affect the people that are going to be buying my products? You have to go, are the taxes high enough to justify it? So, or are they low enough to justify it? Because if somebody who's working 40 hours a week and doesn't have 40 to $80 a week to spare in marijuana, what if they only have, $20-30 a week to do those things with after bills and expenses? They're not going to want to go to you. If your taxes are so high, you're not going to kill the black market. you're just going to make the black market stronger because those people still won't go to your stores. I think there are a number of people that will go to the stores just because it's the legal way to do it. But most people don't have that kind of money to spend, especially when it seems like these people, under the guise of responsible Ohio, which is a crock of shit to me, and it ultimately sounds like they're trying to be like, who was it from the the Daredevil storyline, Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. They're a very Wilson Fisk kind of guy, where he, if you, I don't want to spoil the show or anything, but he's a businessman, and he has this very like, I am trying to help. I am doing these things for the people. And then behind closed doors, they're total greedy, corrupt people that don't really care about the people. They don't really care about the quality of the product. All they really want to do is to make money by any means necessary. And that is ultimately what we need to avoid in this process, is people that are only in it for the money. I think that money will come. That is definitely going to be a motivator for anybody that goes into the retail market. I mean, you'd be dumb to think that people wouldn't get into the marijuana industry for the money. And the difference between somebody in it for the money and somebody in it for the quality of product is that the people that are in it for the quality of product are ultimately going to be the ones that will have the best public perception and also get the most money. That's a no-brainer to me. It has always been a no-brainer to me. And the fact that people think that they can twist this to their benefit just shows how little they actually know. You get a bunch of people who've never dealt with the black market. You get a bunch of people who've never grown marijuana. You get a bunch of people that have hardly ever, if ever, smoked marijuana, trying to create laws for marijuana. That's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So ultimately, that's all I really have to say about this. I didn't smoke in this video because I wanted to kind of drive my focus all the way through, and I think I was able to do that. There's really not much else in this article that says anything worth noting. I'm scanning through it and I don't really see anything. But anywho, I hope that shed some light for you CFL buds. Thanks for the link for this article and bringing this to my attention. And hopefully I can bring this to other people's attention. And hopefully we can start a conversation about this, because it has to start somewhere. It has to start with a conversation, and then people have to let their legislators know what they think. If they don't protest, if they don't make phone calls, if they don't show up to city council meetings, if they don't show up, even if it's just verbally, nothing's going to change at all. So we can be pissed and whine and moan all we want, but these guys are going to win if no one shows up. That's ultimately the reality of the situation. They can have a horrible law written into legislation, and if no one shows up, they're just going to let it go. They're just going to put the wheels on it and run it till the wheels fall off. But if legislation goes through and the people stand up and go, that's not what we voted for, that's not what we want, and they say it loud enough, and there's enough people, it can't just be like 10 people who have nothing else to do. It has to be a large enough movement for them to actually care. And if people are too lazy sitting at home, or they convince themselves they're too busy to make a 5-minute phone call, then of course, maybe you don't deserve a better law. But, I think you do deserve a better law. But you got to work for it. It's not an overnight thing. It's not just going to magically happen. It's been, it's been illegal since 1937. And I can guarantee you that anybody who's ever looked at the propaganda for what it is goes, oh, well, that's dumb. They should have never done that. But they also didn't have the science that we have now. And so it's important for us to really wave that in front of their faces and remind the people who are writing these laws why they're in office. And they're in office to serve the people. They are public servants. They are people who represent the people of that state, or in some cases the city. So just irritating that there are so many cases like this going around the country. And I think that there's going to be a huge backlash from all this. And I think people are going to start looking around and going, oh, it's not just me. It's not just in Washington. It's not just in Alaska. It's not just in Oregon. It's not just in Ohio. It's not just in Mississippi. It's not just in Georgia. It's fucking everywhere. So, I don't know, man. That's all I got to say about that. I hope you guys have a good morning. I don't really have anything else to talk about. This is really just more of an commentary video on a link that I was given. So, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Stay orangey. Always flush responsibly. And kick the people's asses, hypothetically, or more of a phrase. Don't actually physically hurt people. I don't condone physical violence against legislators, but give those people a call and tell them what you really think. And don't just say that it sucks. Tell them that you don't want a 3-tier system. Tell them that you don't want an oligopoly. And if they don't know what an oligopoly is, inform them. Use the internet to your advantage and inform people of what is actually happening. And you don't need to have an economic background to do so. But just fucking call them and say that this is really horrible. I don't want this. And I want better from you guys. And that's all you really need to do. Let them figure it out. Have them hold meetings. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.